With enough time and effort, reaching 2000 ELO is essentially inevitable as long as you have a working brain. It might take drastically different amounts of times for one person to reach it than another, but all in all, it's a very realistic goal. But the one thing that separates you from reaching your goal in 1 year or 10 years is how many chess improvement myths you fall for. A chess improvement myth is something that is suggested to you by a chess coach, a friend, or maybe a chess creator that is either misleading or straight up wrong. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through 13 of the most common chess myths for you guys to avoid to help you reach 2000 ELO. Before we do get into today's video though, if you guys do enjoy the content on my channel and want to help support me, feel free to check out my coaching options in the description below. I make personalized lessons for all of my students ranging from 1000 ELO to 2000 ELO, alongside out-of-hours support through Discord. New students can get 25% off their first lesson using code FIRST at checkout, or you can get a 5-lesson package with the 5th lesson coming completely free. If you're looking for a free alternative, you guys can also join my Discord where you can collaborate with hundreds of chess improvers to reach your next reading goal. But with all that being said, let's get right into today's video. Openings aren't important. Whilst most of the advanced players watching this video will already have an opening repertoire, if you're a more amateur player and you're avoiding learning theory, it's seriously setting you back. The problem with this piece of advice is it's just regurgitated from what people hear elsewhere. The generally correct advice is don't spend hours memorizing opening theory. This much is true until around 1800 ELO, where you will have to start memorizing some opening lines. However, people online who just spew out anything that they hear from a Grandmaster have started teaching people to not learn opening theory at all. This results in amateur players just playing random things almost every time they play a game. What you should be doing if you're an amateur player is figuring out what you should be playing against each opening response. For example, if you play e4, what are you always going to play against? The Sicilian, Scandinavian, or the Alekhine? We should not be guessing our way through these openings every time we play them. We should learn what the opening is attempting to do for our opponent, understand what squares our pieces want to be when we face these openings, and have a decent idea on what we want to achieve going into the middle game. So yes, whilst you shouldn't be memorizing crazy amounts of opening theory, you should understand the openings that you play, and more importantly, play the same openings every time. I should note though, no matter what ELO you are, you absolutely should be memorizing opening lines when it comes to traps. These traps are most commonly just one line in your opening that you'll have to memorize to make sure it never happens again. If you don't memorize the trap, you will fall for it the next time as well. Puzzles will automatically make you better at chess. The amount of people that just blindly solve puzzles thinking that it'll make them better at chess is absolutely astounding. It's kind of like throwing a ball at a target over and over again without giving any real thought to the technique that you're throwing with and expecting to hit the target more often. If you don't give any genuine thought to the puzzle and just solve it within 30 seconds of actually seeing the position, how are you going to learn anything? Whilst you are exposing yourself to a new type of pattern that you might not have seen before, you're probably just going to forget it if you don't interact with it properly. Puzzles will make you better at chess, but only if you solve them properly. Here's how. First, it goes without saying that you should be playing puzzles on Lichess. Why? Because Lichess has this thing called opening themed puzzles, where you can click on puzzles, puzzle themes, buy openings, more, and then scroll down to your opening of choice. This gives you puzzles that actually derive from the opening you play, meaning you'll never get a puzzle with an unrealistic pawn structure that would never occur in your games. Secondly, you'll want to spend around 5 minutes solving each puzzle. Even if you think you found the answer, keep calculating other lines to make sure there isn't something better. Once that 5-minute timer is up, play your move and see if you got it right. Most importantly, if you got the puzzle wrong, go back and spend a few more minutes analyzing the puzzle to understand everything about it, just like you would a game review. Adding these simple steps to your puzzle solving routine will actually make you a better chess player instead of just blindly solving puzzles for the sake of it. ChessMind.ai. Just before we continue, today's video absolutely wouldn't be possible without our sponsor, ChessMind.ai. ChessMind is a next-generation AI-powered chess improvement platform. Not only does ChessMind have completely free puzzles, but they also have a wide range of courses you can select from for less than $5 per month. All of the courses are handcrafted by Chilean Grandmaster Mauricio Flores and are designed to make you a master of any opening variation in around an hour. They perfectly balance top-quality theory with ease of learning to take the boring out of any study. Once you've completed these opening courses, you can either play puzzles deriving from said opening, or dive into their AI integrations which quiz your knowledge on what you've just learned. The AI acts as a replacement for a coach, asking you to find characteristics of certain positions and explain the advantages and disadvantages. You can check out chessmind.ai with my link in the description, where you can get 30% off your subscription. The more games you play, the better you'll get. As long as you're actually reviewing your games that you do play, this advice is half correct. But if you're just playing game after game without learning from any of your mistakes, you're just absolutely not going to get better. When you're lower rated, it's all about playing as much chess as possible, exposing yourself to as many positions as possible, and absorbing it all as you go. But once you get to around 1600 ELO, you've already exposed yourself to so much chess. And the concepts that you'll now need to learn to get better are not as simple as the ones that you learnt previously. It'll be a lot more difficult to sponge in that information naturally. Because the techniques and ideas that you'll now need to learn are a lot more complex, playing too many games actually is just going to take up too much space in your memory. I'm not saying don't play many games, but typically players below 1600 ELO can be playing up to 20 rapid games per day. This is way too much. Really, I'd recommend limiting yourself to around 5 games per day if you're over 1600 ELO. Maybe a few more if you're on a winning streak and want to keep that momentum. Studying Grandmaster games will make you better at chess. Studying Grandmaster games will absolutely not make you better at chess if you're below around 2000 ELO. The skill level of Grandmasters is just simply too high to actually apply what they do into your games. Maybe you can learn a thing or two from their opening choices and what they decide to do in that game phase, but when it comes to middle games and end games, they're just simply too good. Again, when you get to a certain ELO level, this changes and you can actually start to apply what Grandmasters do into your own games, but until you reach around 2000 ELO, that's not really the case. If you like the idea of studying master games though, you can still do it, just not with Grandmasters. I would say Candidate Masters, FIDE Masters, or even International Masters have games that are really good to study below 2000 ELO. They're not seeing perfectly 10 moves into the future on each turn, and it's a lot easier to learn from when everything isn't perfect. Taking a break from chess will help in the long run. I don't really hear anyone suggesting this, but I hear a lot of amateur players thinking that taking a break from chess is going to help them get better. Like literally anything else in the world, taking a break from chess is going to make you slightly worse when you eventually do come back. If you really think that you need to take a break from chess because of something else that's going on in your life, make sure you keep playing at least 1 game per day. Of course, your personal life comes before chess, so if you need to take a break, take it. But if you want to make sure that all of your rating doesn't tank when you come back, I would recommend playing at least 1 game per day while you're gone. The engine is always right. This is such a huge mistake I see people under 2000 ELO make, and it's one of the main advantages of actually having a chess coach. Just because the engine says that you're wrong, doesn't mean that you were wrong for your level. When the engine thinks that you've made a mistake, you absolutely need to do your due diligence to see what the engine is actually suggesting. A lot of the time, the engine is going to say that your move was a blunder, but your opponent had to find this ridiculously unfindable move to punish you for it. You often need to wonder if the engine is being too unrealistic for your rating level. It works the other way around as well. Sometimes you'll play a move that the engine thinks is absolutely fine, but when you go a couple of moves later, it happens that you're in a terrible position. This means sometimes that even though the engine suggests that you blundered on this move, the real mistake might have happened a couple of turns earlier when you put yourself into a bad position. There isn't really an easy way around this though. Getting a coach does help, but I think the best way to go forward, especially considering not everyone can pay for coaching, is just use the engine as a tool and not the sole thing you rely on to review your games. I need to pay for coaching or courses to improve. This is a huge misconception that I wanted to cover but probably doesn't warrant its own video. Essentially, if you have the time to train and study yourself, you shouldn't pay for a coach and you shouldn't pay for courses. It's not necessary in any capacity because you're paying for something that you could do yourself for free. The way you should look at coaching or courses is that you're paying money to save yourself the time of doing it. This is especially good advice for people that work full-time jobs, as you probably can't dedicate as much time to chess as a university student would be. Paying for a coach is essentially paying someone to figure out everything that is wrong with your game. You're offloading the time that you would have to spend doing that yourself to somebody that's a little bit more experienced than you. If you really wanted to, you could spend hours doing the same thing and see similar results. However, not everyone has that time to spare and might want to pay someone else to do it for them. The same goes for opening courses. There are plenty of free options out there to learn certain openings. My recommendation for building an opening repertoire is actually to build it yourself from scratch, but again, for everyone that's not possible because it's very time consuming. Paying for a course, all you have to do is click one button and then you have all the information you need on that specific opening. So, moral of the story is paying for coaching or courses is basically paying to save that time for yourself. If you have the free time, you absolutely don't need a coach and you don't need courses. But if you don't have the time, maybe you should. Lose equals bad and win equals good. Something that you're going to have to learn about chess is that in the grand scheme of things, winning and losing don't really mean anything. For example, let's say your opponent completely outplayed you throughout the game, but ended up hanging their queen right at the end. This is not a win you should be proud of. In a lot of ways, you should even consider this as a loss and hold yourself accountable for being worse most of the game. In the same breath, there will be a lot of games where you are completely crushing for most of the game, but made one mistake at the very end. Whilst you should hold yourself accountable for your mistake, you should also hold your head high, knowing you are the better player in the game. Long story short, don't let results dictate the way you feel about your chess improvement. In a lot of cases, they just aren't an accurate reflection of how the game actually went. Just figure out what you did wrong, appreciate what you did right, and move on to the next game. Bullet and blitz are useless. I'll keep this one short, but I'm a huge believer that bullet and blitz are very useful time controls to learn. Time controls are absolutely inevitable in rapid chess. You're always going to get into some kind of time scramble, even if you're using increment. Bullet and blitz can help tremendously when it comes to fixing your time management, but you do have to be careful that you're not carrying over bad habits from your blitz and bullet to your rapid. For example, you can essentially write off everything you do in the opening and middle games of your blitz and bullet games. It's just the end games and the time scrambles that you get into that you're going to benefit from. Learning how to convert advantages quickly is a huge skill to have, and playing blitz and bullet actually helps you train that. If I had more time, I'd play better chess. Actually, I take it back. This is the most infuriating chess myth that I have ever heard of because it couldn't be further from the truth. Let me put it super simply. If you had 20 minutes to think about all your moves in a chess game and your opponent only got 10, who do you think would play better? You, of course, would say you would play better because you had twice as much time as your opponent. So, when you flag in a winning position, when your opponent still has 5 minutes on the clock, did you really play better than your opponent, or did you just spend more time finding those winning moves? When you put it like that, it's pretty easy to see that you're not actually better than your opponent, you just don't manage your time very well. I'll give you 2 easy fixes for this. The first one is that you can just mimic your opponent's clock and try not to stray away within 1 minute of their time. Alternatively, you can use the 33% rule, which is spending 33% of your time on the opening, middle game, and end game. Regardless of what method you use, anything is better than complaining that you don't have enough time, and that's the only reason that you're not getting better. To get better, I need to change my opening. Unless you started playing chess with some really stupid gambit, changing your openings is not going to make you a better chess player. Literally, the only reason that you should be changing your openings is if for some reason you started playing something like the Anglian Gambit when you started playing chess. Classical openings exist for a reason, because they're good. I can guarantee that if you play a regular opening, the problem is you and not the opening. Take it from me, I recently swapped from the London system in the Caro-Kann to the Catalan and the Sicilian defense. It took almost a year for me to get back to the rating that I was at before with these 2 new openings. When I first changed openings, I didn't get better, I immediately got worse at chess. The same might not happen to you in such a large capacity, but you'll definitely get at least a little bit worse when you swap openings, and it will definitely not make you better. I need to memorize my openings better to improve. I know we've kind of spoken about this in today's video already, but learning 20 moves of theory for every single line in your opening repertoire isn't the problem in your chess. With the popularization of opening websites that help train your opening theory, people really go overboard with learning opening lines. You absolutely should be memorizing a lot of lines in the main lines for your opening. But after that, you should be prioritizing the middle game plans and understanding what you want to achieve in that space of the game. Below 2000 ELO, most players won't even play into your theory. They'll play something slightly subpar and you'll be completely out of book already. You need to be the type of player that understands the positions very well, understands what all of the pieces are supposed to be doing in the position, so when your opponent makes a slight misstep in the opening, you know exactly what to do. Players who memorize 20 moves of opening theory are the same players that capitulate when their opponent steps out of it. so don't be one of those players. I lost because of the last bad move I made. Again, we've kind of covered this already in today's video, but a lot of people get very confused when reading the engine and don't understand the move that actually lost them the game. Often, we look at the chess.com or Lichess game review and we see a little blunder symbol next to one of the moves that we played. We accept that that was a blunder and we leave it at that. However, in reality, there was probably a move 5 moves previously that was actually the cause of our downfall. If a move that we played 5 moves previously got us into a tricky position, we know that tricky positions are easier to blunder in, so we want to avoid getting into those kind of positions to begin with. So when you're reviewing one of your games next, look for the blunder symbol and make sure to go back a few moves to make sure that we didn't get ourselves into a weird position unnecessarily. Of course, this won't be the case in every game that you play, but it's very important that you do check for it when it comes up. And with that, we've gone through all of the chess myths that are preventing you from getting to your next chess goal. There are probably a few more that I didn't mention in today's video, so if you think I missed anything noteworthy, feel free to leave a comment below. If you want to know what actually helps in terms of getting to 2000 ELO, I'll also leave some links in the description of videos on my channel about reaching 2000 ELO. But apart from that, I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I will see you all in the next one.